Welcome to the Explainer. Listen, if you've ever dreamt of running a business that doesn't completely take over your life and run you straight into the ground, well, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we're unpacking some absolutely incredible insights from Michael Gerber's groundbreaking work. Specifically, we're looking at the E-Myth blueprint, how to build a business that runs without you. We're going to talk about why so many incredibly passionate founders just burn out and exactly how to systemize your work so you finally get your freedom back. Okay, let's dive into this.
So get this. The statistics from the U.S. Bureau of Labor are honestly a bit shocking. 20% of small businesses completely fail in their very first year. 20%. By year 5, another 30% are gone, and by year 10, an additional 15% bite the dust. Ultimately, only about 35% survive a decade. And here's the crazy part, right? It's not because the owners weren't smart enough or because they didn't work hard enough. Let me tell you a quick story about Lisa. So Lisa was an absolute master at making these amazing handmade soaps. Everyone told her, "Lisa, you should totally start a business." So she took the leap and opened this really cute downtown shop, and everyone loved it at first. But 6 months in, she was drowning. She was absolutely exhausted, sales were a mess, her staff kept quitting, and she literally hadn't had a single day off in weeks. But you know what the worst part was? She actually started hating soap.
Section 1. The Small Business Trap.
So why does that happen to so many really talented people? Well, this brings us to what Michael Gerber famously calls the entrepreneurial myth, or the E-myth. It's basically this fatal assumption that being deeply passionate and highly skilled at the technical work means you'll automatically be good at the business side of things. But there is a massive difference between doing the work and building a business. They are completely different jobs. Look, doing the work is crafting those beautiful handmade soaps in your kitchen. But building a business? Suddenly you're managing inventory, you're figuring out complex taxes, you're handling angry customer service calls, and dealing with employee drama. None of that has anything to do with crafting lavender bars. And that's the big lie that trips up almost every single new owner. If you're a fantastic baker, sure, starting a bakery makes sense in your head. But actually doing the baking versus running the bakery, those are two entirely separate skill sets.
Section 2. Wearing 3 different hats. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that as a business owner, you aren't just one person. You are actually playing 3 distinct roles that are constantly fighting for control inside your head. First up, you have the entrepreneur. This is the big picture dreamer, right? The part of you that stays up way too late brainstorming what the business could eventually become. Second, you have the manager. This is the one desperately trying to organize the chaos, making the to-do lists, and keeping the wheels from falling off after the dreamer makes a giant mess. And finally, there's the technician. This is the actual doer, the one baking the cupcakes or fixing the bikes. Most of us start our businesses as technicians, but when you become the boss, you don't magically stop being the technician. You just stack the manager and entrepreneur hats right on top of it. Suddenly, you're trying to build the future, manage the present, and do all the actual manual work simultaneously. It is complete and utter chaos, and it is exactly why people burn out.
Section 3. Phases of business growth. Think of your business exactly like a growing kid. It goes through very distinct life stages, and you have to parent it differently at each stage if you want to fix all this chaos. Every business starts in phase 1, infancy. This is where you literally are the business. You handle every single order and answer every single email. At first, it kind of feels good to have that much control, but you blink and suddenly you're working 14-hour days. And if you stop, the whole thing crashes. So you decide to hire some help, and boom, you enter phase 2, adolescence. But things get super complicated here. You give away some responsibility, but let's be real, you probably still hover and micromanage because in your head, no one else does it just right. This is where most owners hit a really painful wall. You realize the business is eating your entire life and it's just not scalable. To actually survive, you must evolve into phase 3, maturity. Now, this isn't about how old your business is chronologically. It's about shifting your approach so you build scalable systems that allow the business to run entirely without you.
Section 4. Thinking like a franchise. Reaching that maturity phase requires a complete mindset shift. You have to move away from the idea that your personal, constant labor is what keeps the business alive. You've really got to shift your perspective here. Hustle is not a business strategy. Let that sink in for a second. In a world that constantly glorifies those 18-hour workdays and that whole rise and grind mentality, this is a pretty hard-hitting truth. If your business depends entirely on you hustling nonstop just to survive, you don't actually own a business. You just own a job. And honestly, it's probably a job with terrible hours and 0 paid overtime.
So what's the way out? It's franchise thinking.
You need to design systems for every single part of your business so that it operates flawlessly without relying on one superstar employee. And yes, especially if that superstar happens to be you. Think about McDonald's for a second. The CEO is not in the back flipping burgers, right? The place runs like absolute clockwork because they built systems for everything: hiring, training, inventory, you name it. Systems are exactly like recipes. You don't rely on a chef's mood or memory. You follow a repeatable process that guarantees the exact same result every single time.
To actually make franchise thinking work, you have to stop trying to be the superhero. If you're out there doing everything yourself just to ensure it's done right, congratulations, you are now the bottleneck. Instead, you must become the coach. A coach doesn't run out onto the field and throw the ball themselves. A coach designs the plays, motivates the team, and watches the scoreboard. So the crucial point is, you do this by documenting every single process step by step. How you take orders, how you answer frequent questions, exactly how you ship products. You do this so that literally anyone can pick up the playbook, follow the steps, and get the exact right result.
Section 5. The 7-Step Blueprint.
So, how do you actually implement all this in your own life? Well, we've finally arrived at the actionable roadmap. Think of it kind of like leveling up in a video game. Let's move to and see how this builds. Step 1 is your entrepreneurial vision. This is where you set the GPS before your big road trip, picturing exactly what your business could be. Step 2 is organizing for success. This is mapping out the frame of the house, defining your specific roles, and figuring out your workflow. Step 3 is the really juicy part, building systems. This is crafting those exact playbooks and recipes we just talked about. Step 4 is staffing smart. You're assembling an all-star team to actually run those systems, not just putting warm bodies in seats. Step 5 is marketing with meaning. It's about making genuine connections that matter so you consistently attract the right customers. Step 6 is financial mastery, tracking your profits and expenses so you're essentially keeping score and you actually know that you're winning. And finally, Step 7 is continuous improvement, innovating and constantly upgrading your gear as the game gets harder. When you nail these steps, your business doesn't just survive, it completely thrives.
Which leaves us with one incredibly important question to wrap things up. What is your first step going to be? You now know the real truth about why small businesses struggle so much. You know about those exhausting hats you've been juggling and the mandatory phases your business has to evolve through. The blueprint is right here in front of you. So whatever that first step is for your specific business, maybe it's documenting a single process, finally delegating a task you hate, or just stepping back to be the coach for a day. Take action on it today. If this explainer helped you see your business in a completely new light, please do hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing explainers. Keep this blueprint handy, and we will definitely see you next time.